All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on another edition of our Franchise Your Business podcast and webinar series. My name is Tom Dufour. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team. And if you're new with us or haven't been with us in a while, just as a reminder, make sure you hit subscribe on whatever channel you're tuning in on, whether that's your favorite podcast, iTunes, Spotify, or the like, or subscribe to our YouTube channel where we publish and put out great content like this regularly. So glad for you to join us here. As an opening, we have a couple guests with us today, and today we're going to be talking about fixing the franchise bottleneck. Maybe that applies to you, or maybe you're wondering what that franchise bottleneck might be. Well, you're going to have to wait at least through the intros for us to talk through that. So I'd take a minute here and introduce our guests. We have Wes Kauffman with us, and he's a systems-driven entrepreneur and operator who builds businesses that scale. He leads Concordia Holdings, which owns and operates the largest franchise groups in the Rolling Suds and FASTSIGNS network. Wes is also the founder of Sign Talent Solutions, which sources and places global designers, project managers, and sales assistants for the FASTSIGNS network of franchisees, while helping owners codify simple, effective SOPs. A data-driven builder with a bias for action, he focuses on operational excellence, talent pipelines, and durable growth. And then we have Binsi with us, and she is the managing director at Sagan, where she leads global operations, product development, and automation strategy for a rapidly scaling talent platform. With a background in executive operations and systems design, Binsi has helped hundreds of businesses streamline recruitment, optimize offshore hiring, and integrate global professionals into high-performing teams. She has architected Sagan's approach to candidate pipelines, process standardization, and community-led support for both employers and global talent. Needless to say, these folks are super talented and understanding how to grow business and find talent to help you grow that business. So with that, Wes and Binsi, I'd love just to get things started about fixing this bottleneck in talent, and maybe even giving us just a little bit of your own journey through this process and how you got here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll,
Go ahead,
I'll,
Wes.
I'll go first if that's all right. Yeah. So like you said, I have two business partners. We are franchisees in the FASTSIGNS network and the Rolling Suds network. And I joked with you in the prelim, Tom, that like any small business owner, we have three FASTSIGNS locations. One of the biggest challenges as we've grown significantly over the past 5 years is finding good people. It takes good people to make businesses grow. Coming out of COVID, there was a shortage of labor. Even if you look, and there's still a shortage of labor. Unemployment's low. It's hard to find people. And we're moving into a period, I believe, that we're going to continue to have that issue. So as we grew from, I think in 2020, we were probably around 30 employees to we're at about 250 today. It's been a challenge. And I met John and Binsi in that process. And they're like, hey, have you considered global talent? And it's been a lifesaver for us. So much of a lifesaver that, we decided to kind of systemize it and start helping the FASTSIGNS network with the same thing. Because I'd go to convention and every franchisee, they're just like, oh man, that's the commiseration. That's as I joke, the big red button on everybody's chest. It's like people, finding good people. So we've been helping the FASTSIGNS network with that and seeing a lot of success there. But global talent for us has been a complete game changer. I think we have 30 placements right now, and we're adding multiples every week, it feels like, through Binsi and her team helping us source more high quality team members.
So Wes, when you talk about having placed 30, does that mean you have 30 people currently that are working kind of remotely somewhere else around the world?
Yes. Yep. So we've got Philippines, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, India, you name it. We've got them all over the place, and they've been phenomenal. I'm always blown away by the education level. This is, I think, Binsi had this for later in the podcast, but we have a young woman, Rosalba from Mexico. She has a master's degree in architecture. She's a project manager for us. She teaches architecture at university. And I think she's working on her PhD at the moment and speaks 5 languages because she doesn't have anything else to do in her spare time. And she's phenomenal, right? Excited to be at work, super competent. We trust her with customers, honestly. She's dealing with very high level customers, and it's awesome to have her on the team. She brings a lot of energy. So that's just one example of the type of talent we've been able to find.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's very, very helpful, Wes. And Binzi, I'd love for you maybe just to talk a little bit about how you meet how someone like Wes comes into the Sagan system and that needs some help. Maybe someone who's new and hasn't done their first placement yet, and they're saying, "Boy, I've got these trouble spots." How do you get involved? How do you help someone like Wes or other franchisees or franchisors solve this talent challenge?
Yeah. So if you are looking to, let's say, hire a global talent, one of the best options out there used to be that you work with an agency, right? And what happens with agencies is that they would charge you a percentage of the global talent's 1 year salary. And it's usually anything between 20 to 25%, even 35% for many agencies. And they simply place the global talent and that's it. But what we've seen and what I've experienced, I'm a global talent. I'm based in Dubai, and I met John about 8 years back. And I started off as an EA, and I was a very basic admin assistant. Um, if I had been just the admin assistant without any of the support and the guidance and coaching and any of that was provided, I wouldn't have become who I am right now, which is leading a huge team. So at Sagan, we've grown from like 3 team members about 2 years back to about 90 plus team members at this stage. And you cannot do that with all of the support and the extra things that you provide with these global talent with. But if you are a business owner, very busy going through your day, do you really have the time and the energy to provide them with the resources and the coaching and the training and all that? That's basically where Sagan comes in, right? So with Sagan, what we did is we are a bit of a different model. So we are a membership based recruitment firm. We don't do it upon, like, we don't take a fee on placement. And in this membership, you get to have certain number of hires, right? But it's not just the hires that we focus on. We have a lot of different other benefits, like we provide training and ongoing support for all of the global talent. We provide training and support for the members, for the business owners, because a lot of times new business owners don't know how to manage global talent. They don't know how to set expectations. They don't know how to provide systems or SOPs or documentation. And so we help them through almost all of these processes. We don't just place global talent. We would also basically help you onboard them. We provide payroll services. We have multiple partnerships with payroll providers to provide like discounts on payroll. We would also even administrate payroll for you if needed. So basically, it's kind of like a full cycle service offering from onboarding all the way until, let's say, they get fully integrated into your business. Because one of the things that most business owners do is they bring on a global talent and they call them a VA. We hate the phrase VAs. And most
Yeah.
people just bring virtual assistants and they just do assistant stuff. And that's not all global talent is. Because if you look at it, the best business owners have global talent across the board. They have it in all departments. They have accountants, they have controllers, they have CSRs, sales reps, sales admins. And so if you are just restricting yourself to VAs, you are doing yourself a disservice because you haven't explored the breadth of global talent that can be integrated into your business.
Well, wonderful, wonderful, Binzi. And Wes, I'd love to just kind of hear your vantage point. So that's a great overview on how Sagan gets involved and can help. And Wes, how have you seen that experience in bringing in global talent and with that support from Sagan and being able to help you through that?
Yeah, so the kind of the story of how I initially got into global talent, I met John online. I think I DM'd him somewhere, and we started chatting. And he's I think you've met John. John has a lot of energy.
He
Um,
does.
I'm not quite at his level, but the two of us combined is kind of dangerous. And I actually at first hired him just as a consultant to help me think through process stuff because we grew so quickly that a lot of our processes weren't in place, a lot of our workflows weren't in place, and there is a bit of like so many small business owners especially haven't done that kind of hard work, and that's I think where Sagan really is beneficial because they can come in and say, look, There are amazing people. Really, I mean, people think I'm just trying to sell something, but these people are phenomenal. You need to get them in your business. You might have to do a little thinking about what your process looks like and the way your workflows run. They can help you with that. They have workflow experts. They have Sagan University, which is doing classes, I think, every day now.
Yes.
Everything from, is it every day? It's close.
It is every day,
Yeah.
yes.
Everything from accent reduction for global talent to John did a whole getting things done course on how to, it blew my mind. I'd never read Getting Things Done or knew anything about the process. That was super, super helpful. They have AI workshops. They have AI experts on staff that all they do is talk about AI and build AI tools. It's kind of, I mean, honestly, it's like Sagan is a membership and you get to hire a certain number of hires through it, but that's not really, that is part of the benefit, but all of the other extra is just like phenomenal and it's a great community of people. So for me, it was that brainstorming with John, brainstorming with the team around how do I re-look at my company in a different way to access this amazing resource. And that's kind of what I've had to do. I when I talk to other FASTSIGNS franchisees about it, I say it's like you need to look at the daily workflow of your company as like lines of code. And every line of code needs to run to make this business function daily, right? And then I need to tag each line and say, is that a physical has to be done here, or is that it can be done remotely? And I need to kind of tease those two apart. And then you can build roles around, if it's remote, there's no reason you can't have that be global. And if it's physical, then that's going to be local. And you get to really kind of maximize what each team, your US based team and your global based team are doing for the highest performance and the highest output of that team. But it was working with Sagan, working with John and Binsi in kind of that philosophy that has really changed our companies like dramatically.
Oh, that's wonderful, Wes. And Binsi, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what Wes was just talking about. I think this is interesting about figuring out what can be done. I really liked how you said that, Wes. What can be done remotely versus locally, where some things have to be done locally and other things can be done kind of anywhere. It doesn't have to be tied down to a specific location where maybe your retail business or local business might be run. So, Binsi, I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about how you help your clients with that or go through that process.
So I think previously one of the hardest part about transitioning to a global workforce for most business owners was the fact that their offices were not set up for it. Because you have, let's say you have a delivery come into your office and you have like a purchase order or whatever, it's a piece of paper and it needs to be filed somewhere, right? And so if you are not set up for that, then it becomes very hard to integrate global talent because at the end of the day, global talent can only work virtually. And so the first step in all of this is transitioning to your business into a space where it can function in a virtual environment. And that is one of the hardest parts for most business owners. For many franchisees, I know that that is also a very difficult area. But franchises are all built on systems. Everything is systematization, right? And so global talent works perfectly into that kind of an ecosystem because global talent works based on systems. And if you're not systematized, it becomes very hard to integrate that kind of global talent. So the first thing for us is usually figuring out, is this business set up for a remote environment? After COVID, almost most businesses are because we did transition during that stage. And then it is, okay, what are certain functions in which we can bring in global talent, right? And so let's say your business is very heavy on sales. Just as an example, like you're a roofing company, for example, right? Your sales folks are out there. They are always out there. They're talking to customers. They're going in to provide estimates. They're doing a lot of different things. Now, most business owners would think, okay, we cannot put in global talent in a business like this, but that's not true because global talent can come in as admin support so that your sales team can actually do the things that they're good at, not updating CRMs, not providing estimates, not writing down all these things that were captured during the meeting, which we have a lot of systems built so that that can be captured easily, such that your overseas team or global talent can actually help you with those, right? So there are different aspects inside the business which can be done remotely, and you just need to figure out what it is. So let's say you have a CFO in the company that is like very busy throughout the day. Can you add in certain folks like an accountant, maybe someone who does AP, payroll, someone who does just uh, AP and AR, things like that, basic accountants, junior accountants. There's a whole set of like financial team members that can be global to support your one or two in-office accountant folks, right? Because at the end of the day, most of these in-office folks could be a little bit more expensive than your global team. And your global team, like you might not have enough, you might not be able to staff enough local team members when you really look at it. But in terms of global team, you can have like unlimited folks even, because it's so cost effective. Right, Wes? What do you think of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's two things. Like the cost savings is obviously very attractive to a lot of people, but it's also just like finding good people. One example was a friend of mine who's a franchisee had an ad out for an installer for signs, right? And that's obviously very important when I talk about local. Look, an install's got to be done locally. Um, couldn't get it, like zero applicants. So he had hired two global. He hired an inside salesperson, and he hired an assistant and a designer. Took the cost savings from them, increased the wage for the installer, and instantly had 5 to 10 great candidates. So it's like the cost savings, yes, it is, but it lets you also access. You can fix your local bottleneck in some ways with talent if you can just pay a little, right? Like pay enough, you find good people. You always will. So I that's kind of the way I look at it. Yeah, it solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, thank you. One thing I was thinking about at Binsi when you were describing fixing systems and helping your customers go through that, and Wes, you mentioned this too, how if you don't have these kind of systems sorted out, this global talent you bring in can help you figure it out, and it got me thinking about someone that might end up listening to this and say, well, I'm not Wes. I don't have an empire of franchises, and maybe I own one franchise or I own two franchises, and now I've been the owner, operator. I'm kind of getting this going, but I've got my feet under me now, and I'm
Mhm.
ready to start offloading some of my duties. How might you support someone in that capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially like what I like to do is talk about the mindset. And when you kind of understand that, like, okay, this is the mindset we need to have, just start, right? And don't worry about making sure they're completely busy 40 plus hours a week to start, right? Start practice, putting into practice, even if it's like, say, for you, even if you want to start with an assistant, start simple, right? Don't start with super high level. Get kind of that muscle of exercise of like, hey, I could make this remote. And then I can put this in a documentation and I can teach them how to do it. I just hired, we have a couple other companies and I hired a bookkeeper to help me with that. I was still doing all the bookkeeping and it was like 4 different entities. It wasn't hard. It took me an hour a day, whatever, but I'm like, I don't need to be doing this. I hired Edison. He's from the Philippines. He's phenomenal. He works just with me. We just met once a day. He's already a bookkeeper. He's probably more talented than me at QuickBooks. And once a day for an hour, we'd meet and I'd teach him something. And then he'd do that. And then we did that for a month. And now he's just, everything's up to date and balanced and on time every day, all the time. So I think it's just that don't put so much pressure on yourself to make it perfect right away. If you have the right understanding and the right mindset and you're willing to just continue to kind of one piece at a time, you can make a lot of, one task a day is 365 a year. That's a lot of tasks.
Oh, that's very well said, Wes. And Binzi, from your perspective, are there maybe some best practices or things you recommend kind of going in for someone with that first hire that's kind of just getting into this?
Most business owners start with a first hire as being their executive assistant or a chief of staff or some form of those. And I believe that is actually the hardest hire because an executive assistant's role is not really defined. You would have to be very good at delegating to make your executive assistant really useful, right? My recommendation is always start with something that is an established process. So let's say you always know how you answer your phones, you have FAQs, you already know what are the common questions that your customers would ask. Your first global talent could be a CSR, right? Just to handle all the customer service inquiries. That's all you need. Somebody to just answer your phone throughout the day, right? That'll be a very easy to transition role for you, right? If you know that your estimates are always in one format, it's always in this way, I always send it to this email, an estimation support admin, whatever you can call them, is an easy first hire, right? Would you be able to onboard an executive assistant that easily? Now you are battling with thousands of different processes, lots of different things that you would need to delegate. You don't really know what you want to do in that situation. So my recommendation is look for established processes in your company. Let's say you are like, I think we had this customer that mentioned that they're a roofing contractor. And one of the things that they have to do is they have to work with insurance companies to get paid, right? And they had so much unpaid invoices that they were just drowning in it. And to have one global talent placed in that position to just talk to the insurance company, figure out the things, and get those invoices paid out gives more returns than an executive assistant who will maybe help you respond to a couple of emails or schedule some calls for you, right? So again, recommendation is like look for repeated processes, look for processes that are already established that you can just hand over. And that'll be one of the easiest hires that you can make.
That's very good. Sorry, couldn't get my mic off mute there for a moment. That's very, very helpful. And Wes, one of the things I was thinking in listening to Binzi, so we talked about maybe a single unit operator, a single franchisee. Maybe they're within their first 2 years of operation, they're maybe looking for that first real support type role to come in and help them. But then I think about you as a seasoned multi-unit operator with lots of operations and businesses operating at the same time. I guess when you look to bring in the support, how did you kind of go through that process to say, where do I start? Or is there any particular area or pain point that you began with?
Yeah. So, I mean, for the signage business, I mean, kind of the initial kind of easy one for our business is graphic designers, right? It's a very known skill set. It's a known education. Signage is a little different, so it was a little bit challenging. It's not. I won't get into the nuance, but it's different from print to signage. But it's still a fairly known thing. So that was the easiest thing that we did, right? We start there. And then we worked into, we had kind of went through this process where when I talk about, um, operations and what can be remote or whatever, of leaning out our sales process and creating new roles. One of those roles was project management, customer service sort of roles. And so we started hiring there. And in our industry, signage is very construction based, right? There's a lot of construction. So we hired architects, we hired civil engineers, people that honestly I would never be able to afford in the US. Like I just couldn't, not for the type of role. So we're able to access really high level talent to do that project management work and come in and hit the ground running because they're like, oh yeah, we understand. We can read construction drawings. We know how a project is supposed to go. We have certifications for all that. So those were the two roles we primarily started with. And then we've moved off. We have multiple people in accounting. We have multiple people in customer service and invoicing, just submitting invoices to vendors because of, vendors, that sort of thing. So I always say I wish I'd have known about global talent earlier because I would have just started with a global talent first kind of perspective. Like, is it remote? We're going to do it over here. Is it local? We're going to do it here. If I had started with that, I'd have 60, 80, 100 global contractors at the moment, not 30, because we would have probably bifurcated our business even more. But no complaints. It's been fantastic for us.
Wonderful. And Binsi, I guess is you think of onboarding an owner, a large multi-unit franchisee that might come in, or maybe as I'm talking out loud, it makes me think of the franchisor as part of this. And how does Sagan and how do you work with a franchisor to become part of some of the support or an option for the franchise network?
Yeah, so if you are a franchisor, you can essentially take one of our memberships for your entire network of franchisees, right? And so the franchisees can come in, they can put in a hiring request. We work based off a credit system. And so you can give the credits over to your franchisees so that they can simply come in, put in a hiring request. We would work with them directly, and then we would help place the global talent for them. Now, if you are a franchisee that actually wants, let's say, 6+ hires and you are growing rapidly, then you would essentially have your own membership and then you would be part of our network and then you would go through the same process. So we can work at multiple levels. If you are somebody that just needs one type of profile sent over, like consistently, like for Wes, one of the things that we do is that we provide graphic designers, signage graphic designers consistently, right? Because that is what Wes requires. So if you are something like an industry partner like Wes is, then essentially we would work with you to define what are certain roles that you need filled consistently. And we would provide options for sourcing, screening, onboarding, every kind of support that you would need to get them onboarded into the business.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, one thing I was thinking of is you mentioned the credits and being on the subscription, and a lot of the conversation today has been focused on onboarding, bringing someone on, integrating them into what you're doing. But eventually, the global talent may move on or find something else that they're interested in. So I'd love to just hear your thoughts or kind of what that is like going through a transition where that global talent is now transitioning over. I could hear you probably hear something like this. I could hear someone, an owner, a multi-unit franchisee, or even the franchisor saying, well, we have some intellectual property, or we have things that we're nervous about. What happens if this person leaves? Then what? So how might you respond? Either one of you respond to that.
Wes, do you want to talk a little bit about the...
Yeah, I mean, so the way I think about it is like, and I totally understand the concern, right? But we all have employees that all have access to all that stuff and they all leave all the time. I don't see a difference between US based and global, right? I mean, I guess they're outside the US justice system, but I think it's pretty uncommon to see a franchisor going after a former employee of a franchisee. You know what I mean? I understand the concern, but part of the other thing too is like, yes, sometimes global talent moves on, they go to a different role. Generally, they're pretty sticky. These are really coveted jobs, and they pay well for like the in-country. It's a significant premium to the standard in-country wage. And so my experience with global talent is they really want this job. They do not want to have this job go away. Even like Edison, who I mentioned, who's doing bookkeeping for me, he's always concerned because I only have 20 hours of work for him a week right now. I'm paying him full time because he's just awesome to have, but he's like worried that I'm not going to be, that's not enough work. I'm like, you're safe, man. I'm not going anywhere because it's a great role for him. So I think, there's always ways to mitigate those concerns. Whenever we work like in the FASTSIGNS network, we make sure they have a FASTSIGNS email so that the franchisor controls that communication, right? They can always lock it down. And like, we don't want them having, emails out here in the ether that there can be documentation pulled into or whatever. We want them to control that data. So we haven't had any issues with it. I don't know, Binsi, if you've ever had any issues, but I've never seen a problem.
one of our recommendations to most business owners that bring in global talent is don't give them your social security number and passport and all that on like the first day of their job. Make sure that they're integrated slowly into your business. Like it does take some time to establish that trust with your global talent, but once it is established, we've seen that most global talent like stays for years. Like I've been with the company for like 7 to 8 years right now, and so not a huge concern, I would say. And then there are, of course, best practices. Like if you are a business where, let's say, you are dealing with HIPAA laws or certain very sensitive information, there are certain like best practices that you would have to take in order to protect a lot of your business functions, right? Like an example would be there are business owners that set up virtual spaces for these global talent to work, and that is it's like you log into an office, you just do things over there, you cannot download things from it, you cannot upload anything into it. It's a very siloed workspace, and that is something that you can set up. It depends on what level of security you would need for your business. For most business, that is not really needed, and again, you give sensitive information only after you've established that the global talent is going to work with you for a long time. We do have NDAs, we do have a lot of best practices. We can help based on the level of security you would need for your business essentially.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'd love for you all to share, how can people find out more about what you're doing? Where can they get information, websites, contact info? What's the best way for people to learn more about this?
So for Sagan, we have a website, saganpassport.com. You can pretty much find most of our information over there. You can book a call with us and we'd be happy to talk you through any questions and all that. Our founder, John Matzner, is very active on Twitter. And so you can reach out, no problem. I am active on LinkedIn. Wes, what about you?
I mean, John is also very entertaining on Twitter. So if you just need a good laugh every once in a while. For me, not really online a whole bunch, but you can reach out to me at my email. Tom, I'll give you that to you. That if you want to post, if you want to email me or reach out to me in any way.
Sure. Great. Well, and I mean, Wes, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask an opportunity for you for someone to maybe be a customer of yours for one of your franchises or other business.
Sure.
So if they happen to be in the area or a potential customer, how can they connect with you there?
Yeah, so if you need signage, like I said, we have 3 locations. We're in Seattle area, and then we're on the East Coast in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So wes.kauffman@fastsigns.com. That's an easy one. Let me know. I'd be happy to help. We help a lot of very large customers do amazing sign work, so we'd be happy to do that. And then if you're in the central Pennsylvania area and you got a dirty house, send the same email, I'll get you the same thing, or wes.kauffman@rollingsuds.com. I'd be happy to help you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we get that in the show notes. And, I'd love to just open this up as an opportunity for you to share anything that maybe you didn't have a chance to yet, or anything before we go today.
Wes, anything?
I think the only thing I think that maybe this is an awesome opportunity, I think, for franchisors and franchisees. So, franchisors are always concerned, like franchisee profitability, growing average unit sales, all those things. To me, lower cost, high quality people helps with the profitability, and honestly, capacity, being able to get the work done efficiently, not leaving leads sit, that grows the top line too. So I would say that's where I think we can really help Z's. And then on the Zor side, franchisors have a lot of support systems, and they got a big burden to serve their networks. And this is an amazing tool that I think franchisors should really consider to leverage to really open up capacity to serve their networks by leveraging global talent.
And how about for you, Binsi?
I would say when it comes to hiring, a lot of people over-index on the resumes, on how the candidate presents themselves and all that. One of the core philosophies we have at Sagan is that we're always on attribute-based hiring. We always think about smart, hungry, coachable. That's like 3 attributes we are always set on. And if you have those 3 attributes, then basically you bring them into your business and you can teach them anything, right? And so one of my, I would say, parting advice would be look for people that can grow into different roles within your business. You don't really need to look at the resume and just like fixate on that, just that one part.
Well, this has been a fantastic session here, and just listening to you all and having had a chance to spend some time with John as well. It really, for someone that, to me, my interpretation is for someone that maybe has not experienced or attempted to bring in global talent, it's at least something they need to consider and explore and take a look and see how that might be able to help support what they're doing, especially as, was it Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat? That book's probably, 20 or 25 years old at this point.
Right.
And the world is increasingly more flat. And so I think that this is a great example of how that's happening and how you're able to blend both worlds. It's not saying eliminate one over this local versus not. It's figuring out a way that they can coexist together.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, great. Yes.
Well, great. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for tuning into our show. And we look forward to having more great episodes. My name's Tom with Big Sky Franchise Team. Appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe before you go, and we'll see you back for the next show.